Hey everybody, my name is Dan, and I don't normally make YouTube content, so I'm going to go through this in one take. But I wanted to make a video discussing what I've learned about a particular resource in Palworld that I have not seen too much content regarding, and that is the small pal soul. I found that this is a pretty difficult resource to farm later on in the game, or I found at least that I was using a lot of it, and I was not replenishing those numbers in my normal gameplay loop as I progress through the game. So the small pal soul is used here at the Statues of Power. If you enhance your pals, you can use them to increase their stats overall. And I didn't do this in the main game like a chump, but this is really potent, particularly for your combat pals, like the Cybelics that I've bred to just commit mass destruction. But as you can see there, that costs 10 pal souls. That is a lifetime 12% buff, but for every stat, it's going to cost 10 pal souls. If I want to increase its max health and defense, which I probably will, given I use this thing for combat purposes, I'll be at 141 pal souls left. So it is pretty steep, and this cost is not shared by the higher level ones. It only costs 6 of the medium and rare or large pal souls to increase these stats. So there really is a drain on these stats, or on these pal souls, I should say. And when you get late game and you have a base that looks like this with a bunch of breeder centers and a breeder center that looks like this with a bunch of eggs, you're going to have a lot of pals whose stats you want to increase, whether it be a work speed Yormantide or a Yormantide also bred for mass destruction. Both of these are going to be hungry for pal souls. So there are a couple ways of farming the pal souls, and of course the first, like most resources in the game, you have the option of defeating pals who drop them. There are 6 different pals who drop small pal souls, and I'm going to start with the pals that drop them at a 1% rate. Long story short, these are in no way efficient sources to farm for pal souls. Daydream, Cognito, a little further, Mr. Tombat, and his cousin the Fellbat all drop small pal souls at 1% rates. Even in the desert, because this was a method I had theory crafted, I know that small pal souls can actually just spawn on the ground in the desert, and I know that Cognito spawns at night in the desert, often in groups. But even then, I've gone nights where I've KO'd like 15 or more of these, and I've gotten no pal souls to show for it. So I don't think that's reliable at all. One of the other ones, the 5th one, is Maraith. He's a little special because he drops at a 15% rate, which is not great, but he has some things going for him. One thing going against him is that he is exclusively an Astral Mountains pal. So if you don't have access to this area, if you don't have the gear to hang here, then this method will not be accessible to you at all. But Maraith has these nice spectral fiery wings, which are very visible at night. They're actually even their own light source, so it's pretty easy to scout for them. And similar to the Cognito, it has, I've only encountered, how should I say this? Maraith tends to spawn in groups. I've very, very rarely encountered single Maraith, even in dungeons where it also spawns. It spawns in the Astral Mountain dungeons, but it's really the only source of small pal souls in this area. You'll end up overloaded with large pal souls if you loot the chests and play the dungeons. So again, I would not recommend farming Maraith to generate small pal souls. The last one, as I kind of spoiled when I opened this pal deck, is Nox, and this one actually kind of is worth farming. The only problem is his scarcity. I have played dungeons in this ravine grotto area where he is a spawn, and you can find them in those rooms there like a regular dungeon pal, sometimes in pairs, and I've had success farming, or at least getting a good number of encounters that way. I've been using Alpha Dran, of course. I figured all of these pals who drop these souls are the dark type, and Alpha Dran has the exclusive Amicable Holy Dragon partner skill to increase those drops. I have yet to see a Nox drop more than 1 pal soul, but I have hope that it could happen. I just have not seen it yet. So I want to talk about Nox in conjunction with what I think is actually the best method. I think the best method for farming these Pal Souls is looting the chests that drop them. So shout out to Game 8 for this resource. Shout out to Palworld GG for this map I'm about to show you a whole bunch of. But these are the chests we're aiming for. These ones with this golden aura, because they have this loot table which contains Pal Souls dependent on the area level. So lucky for us, if you're late game like I am, it is an absolute breeze to go through these starter areas, these islands up here, these islands down here, you know, the lowest level areas in the game, and just, you know, open every single gold chest you find. You will get a ton of Pal Souls that way. It is by far the best method. But what I think offers a chance, I mean, if not efficiency, at least variety, is to play this, I guess, Bamboo Grove area specifically, because this is the area where that where Nox spawns in the dungeons. So what I had done is play these while accessing, any second now, as many of these myriad chests as possible, right? It gets a lot better when you zoom in. Here's what I'll say. It's not worth your time to try this dungeon method to farm Nox. It's not worth your time at night, I find, because Cognito can spawn here and he's not reliable, but at least you can knock them out. And you could just be, your baseline method is to hit all these chests. It's nice marginally to hit these dungeons during the day, because they can spawn chests that pull from this overworld table, and they can spawn the aforementioned Nox inside. But in general, you just want to hit all these chests. And I also tested it because I had concerns, given that the key level of the area, right? It does say it depends on area level, but I didn't know what that meant, because distinctly, I mean, these areas are outlined in yellow. These areas are outlined in green. There is a difference in the strength of the wild pals and the strength of these areas. But I have found, even though these yellow areas, the chests drop, it doesn't say they drop keys, but the chests drop silver keys in these areas, right? In these areas, and they'll drop bronze keys here. However, all of the gold chests in all of these forest biome areas drop the small Pal Souls. So right before recording, I went to the warp point in the desert here at the little peninsula. There's a chest right there in the desert, and then there's a chest right across the way in the grassy area. See, these two. And this chest gave me medium Pal Souls, and this chest gave me small Pal Souls. So it seems that everything in this biome, in this forest biome, all of these chests, if they have this gold hue, give you the small Pal Souls. So that is, from what I have found, the best method of getting small Pal Souls reliably. If you have, I don't even think you necessarily need a flying mount. If you have a good, you know, Fanglope or Rayhound or deer even that has a double jump, or of course if you have a flying mount, I mean, it seems like you could just kind of pretty well zigzag back and forth. I have not schemed up any, you know, this is the most efficient route kind of things, but it seems pretty straightforward. You know, if just try to not cover the same ground twice if you're making a route for yourself. So all in all, you want to hit these areas in the middle of the map. You don't want to mess with the volcano. You don't want to mess with the desert. You don't want to mess with the mountain. You do not want to mess with the wildlife sanctuaries, because they all have different chest tables. We are looking for the chests in these areas. If you have a nice Alphadran, if you find yourself having looted all these, you can try these dungeons where Nox spawns. That's the only, it kind of rubs me the wrong way that they don't really have these labeled, but the dungeons you'll be looking for are the ones that have the bosses at level 19. Those are the ones that have this encounter table. So if you happen to be in the area there and you have the level 19 boss dungeon, go ahead and play it, and you can find some knocks inside. If you do take that route, I would certainly recommend Alpha Dren at that point to give yourself the best chance of the most souls. So that is what I have learned regarding farming small pal souls. Try and get these. Look for this little guy, when you're able. I will say that in these starter areas, this is where the copper silver key difference matters, is that these red chests, the ones that require keys to open in these base areas, could yield small pal souls. I think they guarantee schematics and gold coins, so you're kind of like, I think, taking a coin flip if you're getting spheres or small pal souls. So I would say if you find yourself in these green areas, then loot all of the gold chests as normal, but also all of the red chests. So happy hunting. Good luck finding those small pal souls, and let me know which pals you are looking to increase the stats of first. Thanks, everybody. That's all I got.